A small and peaceful village stood beside a deep, dark forest. The people of the village lived simple lives. They worked during the day and gathered around fires at night to tell stories. One evening, a group of colorful circus trucks arrived at the edge of the village. The villagers were surprised and happy. The circus people started setting up big red and yellow tents in the open ground. Children watched with excitement as animals were brought out: elephants, horses, and even a big lion in a strong iron cage. The circus master, Mr. Victor, was a tall man with a black hat. He told everyone that they would perform their first show the next night. Posters were placed around the village, saying, "Come and watch the great night circus." The villagers could not wait. It was the first time such a show had come to their small village. That night, the circus workers lit bright lights around the tents. Laughter, music, and the smell of popcorn filled the air. Everyone was talking about the lion. His name was Rex, a huge golden beast who could perform tricks. Children were eager to see him jump through fire and roar on command. But as the circus people prepared their stage, some old villagers came and warned them. They said, "Don't keep your animals near the forest at night. Something evil lives there." The circus people laughed and ignored the warning. When the night became cold and the moon rose high, Rex was left in his cage near the forest edge. The trees behind him were dark and silent. A strange wind blew, and a pair of glowing red eyes appeared deep in the forest. The lion growled softly, sensing danger. No one noticed that something moved between the trees, watching, waiting, and slowly coming closer to the cage. That was the night when everything began to change. The night after the circus arrived, the air around the village grew strangely cold. The stars were hidden behind thick clouds, and the forest beside the circus looked darker than ever. Everyone had gone to sleep, but a few circus workers stayed awake to guard the animals. The lion, Rex, was tied in his strong cage close to the forest, away from the main tent. His trainer, Victor, trusted the iron bars and believed nothing could harm his most valuable animal. Rex was restless that night. He kept pacing in his cage, growling softly as if he felt something nearby. The elephants were uneasy too, moving their trunks and making low sounds. Even the horses refused to sleep. The guards whispered that they heard strange noises from the forest, rustling leaves, footsteps, and an odd whispering sound that didn't belong to any human or animal. At midnight, everything went silent. Not even the crickets made a sound. Then, from the shadows of the forest, two glowing red eyes appeared. They moved slowly closer to the lion's cage. Rex began to roar loudly, shaking the cage, trying to scare away whatever was there. The guards ran toward the cage with lanterns, but when they arrived, they saw nothing. Only the trees moved in the cold wind. Victor came out angrily, shouting at his workers for disturbing the animals. He didn't believe their story about the red eyes. He calmed Rex, gave him water, and went back to sleep. But later that night, a deep growl echoed again. The lion's roar turned into a painful cry. When morning came, the trainer found blood drops near the cage and strange bite marks on Rex's leg. The iron bars were scratched deeply, as if something with sharp claws had tried to break in. No one could explain what had happened that night, but from that moment, Rex was never the same again. The next evening, the circus grounds were full of excitement. Bright lights flashed, children laughed, and the smell of roasted corn and popcorn filled the air. Villagers came from nearby towns too. Everyone wanted to see the famous lion, Rex, perform. The music played loudly, clowns danced, and acrobats amazed the crowd with their tricks. It was a perfect night for the big show. Behind the main tent, however, Rex sat quietly in his cage. His eyes looked different now, not golden, but dark and strange. His trainer, Victor, noticed it and frowned. Rex had not eaten since last night. He growled softly and looked toward the forest again and again, as if something was calling him from the darkness. Victor tried to calm him. "It's just your nerves, boy," he said. "You'll be fine tonight." As the time came for the lion act, Victor led Rex into the ring. The crowd clapped and cheered loudly. Rex walked slowly, his heavy paws pressing the sand. Victor started the performance. He made the lion sit, bow, and jump through a ring of fire. At first, everything seemed normal, but the lion's growl grew louder with every move. The music stopped for a moment when Rex refused to follow a command. His breathing became heavier, and his eyes glowed faintly red under the circus lights. Victor tried again with his whip, shouting, "Rex, jump!" But instead of obeying, the lion roared so loudly that the audience fell silent. For a second, everyone thought it was part of the act. Children clapped nervously. But Rex was not performing anymore. He was watching the crowd with hunger and rage. Victor felt fear for the first time. Something was terribly wrong with his lion. The same beast that once obeyed him was now looking at him like prey. And in that moment, under the bright circus lights, the nightmare was about to begin. The crowd was silent for a few seconds after the lion's deep roar. The circus tent lights flickered, and even the music stopped. Victor, the trainer, tried to smile to calm everyone, pretending it was still part of the show. "Ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. Rex is only excited," he said loudly. But inside, he felt fear crawling in his chest. He had trained Rex for years, and he had never seen those red, glowing eyes before. Rex growled again, pulling hard against his chain. The metal links clanged, echoing across the tent. People started whispering nervously. Suddenly, with one powerful pull, the lion broke free. The sound of the snapping chain silenced the entire circus. Victor stepped back slowly, his hands shaking. "Rex, stay," he shouted. But Rex didn't listen. His eyes were fixed on the nearest row of people, terrified villagers sitting only a few feet away. Then it happened. Rex roared so loudly that the ground almost shook, and he jumped into the crowd. Screams filled the air. Chairs fell over, lights burst, and people ran in every direction. Children cried as their parents dragged them out of the tent. The once cheerful circus turned into complete chaos. Victor tried to stop Rex with his whip, but the lion struck him down with one heavy paw. Blood splattered on the sand. The clowns and acrobats ran for their lives, some hiding behind carts, others escaping through torn sections of the tent. The sound of growling, screaming, and breaking wood mixed into a terrifying noise. Within minutes, the beautiful circus ground became a nightmare, red lights flashing, people crying, and the once tamed lion now a wild monster. When the police finally arrived, they found broken cages, torn fabric, and silence. Rex was gone, vanished into the dark forest, leaving behind blood, destruction, and a village that would never forget that night. By the time the police and villagers returned to the circus ground, the chaos had ended, but the scene was horrifying. The big red tent was half torn apart, the lights were broken, and blood was everywhere. The few people who survived were sitting in shock, their clothes stained, their eyes wide with fear. Among them was a clown, Milo, who kept repeating the same words. His eyes were red, not like before. The police began searching for Rex, the lion, but there was no sign of him. The broken cage was empty, and claw marks were visible on the ground leading toward the forest. The trainer, Victor, was found badly injured near the lion's ring. He was breathing weakly. Before losing consciousness, he whispered, "It wasn't my lion anymore. Something else was inside him." Then he fainted. Doctors were called from the nearby town. They treated the wounded, but most of the circus workers were missing. Some said they saw Rex dragging something into the forest before disappearing. Others claimed they heard whispering voices from the trees. The next morning, the police discovered strange things, pieces of Rex's fur that had turned darker overnight, almost black. His footprints were larger than before, as if he had grown. The local hunter said it looked like no normal lion could leave prints that deep. The villagers began to whisper about a curse from the forest. When Victor woke up in the hospital, he screamed in terror. He said he saw something bite Rex that night, something with red eyes and long claws. Nobody believed him, thinking he was hallucinating from pain. But that night, as the villagers gathered near the circus ruins, they heard a familiar roar from the forest, louder and more terrifying than before. The survivors prayed, realizing the nightmare was far from over. Rex was alive, but no longer the same creature they once knew. Days passed after the bloody circus night, but peace never returned to the small village. People were afraid to go near the forest. Every evening, strange growls and roars echoed from deep inside the trees. The villagers said it was the cursed lion, Rex, who now belonged to the forest. The police organized a search team to find him, but each time they entered the forest, they came back empty-handed, pale, shaking, and silent. None of them could explain what they had heard inside. One brave hunter named Ethan decided to uncover the truth. He had lived near the forest his whole life and believed no animal could scare him. Carrying his rifle and a lantern, he entered the forest one foggy evening. The air inside was heavy and cold, and every shadow looked alive. As he walked deeper, he noticed claw marks on the trees, huge and uneven, as if something powerful had passed through. Ethan followed the trail until he found a cave hidden behind thick vines. The smell of blood was strong. Inside, bones were scattered everywhere, animal bones, and some that looked frighteningly human. His lantern flickered, and for a moment, he saw movement at the back of the cave. Two glowing red eyes appeared, staring directly at him. Ethan raised his gun, but before he could shoot, a massive shadow jumped toward him. His scream echoed through the forest, then silence. He never came back. The next morning, villagers found his torn clothes near the forest edge, covered in claw marks. From that day, no one dared to enter again. They said the cave was cursed, a place where the beast slept during the day and hunted at night. Some whispered that the creature was not just the lion anymore, but something darker, half beast, half demon, born from the forest's evil. After the hunter Ethan disappeared, fear spread through the entire village. The forest became completely silent during the day, but at night, the roars returned, deeper, darker, and echoing across the hills. The villagers stopped working near the forest. Farmers abandoned their fields, and travelers avoided the road that passed beside the trees. The once lively village turned cold and empty. Every full moon, strange things happened. Livestock were found dead, torn apart in the morning. The villagers began locking their doors before sunset. Children were told never to look out of their windows at night, because some people said they saw a huge shadow moving through the mist, glowing red eyes and sharp claws scraping the ground. The old priest of the village, Father Samuel, gathered everyone and said, "This curse began when we allowed the circus to settle near the forest. The forest spirit has awakened." He tried to perform prayers and light candles near the edge of the woods, but strong winds blew them out. Even he admitted that something beyond human power now lived there. Some survivors from the circus stayed in the village, too frightened to leave. One night, the clown Milo told others that he saw Rex again, near the river, but Rex wasn't just a lion anymore. His body was larger, his fur black like smoke, and his eyes burned like fire. Milo disappeared the next morning, leaving behind only a blood-stained shoe near the riverbank. Years passed, and no circus ever returned to that cursed village again. The tents rotted away, the circus grounds turned into wild grass, and people still said they heard roars when the moonlight touched the forest. Even now, travelers claim to hear a lion's cry from the woods, but not a normal one. It sounds human, filled with pain and rage, as if the beast still remembers the night it was bitten and still waits for its next victim. And that was the story of the Cursed Circus Lion, a tale that still haunts the silent forest beside the village. Some say the roars can still be heard on full moon nights, reminding everyone that some shows should never return. If you enjoyed this horror story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your one click gives me courage to bring you more dark and chilling stories every week. Stay safe and never wander near the forest at night.